Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And that in fact do make this X is for podcast premier media response show. It's a Wednesday. It's kind of like an after dark special cuz it's so fucking late. It's so late that West Coast people are getting ready to think about ordering dinner.
No, they're not going to order dinner for still like another 2 or 3 hours. They're very European over there.
They're just thinking about it. They're getting ready to think about it. They're in the preparation. The preparation. That's how late it is. Um but no, really excited. We're doing comics.
We're doing comics. We got a little X-Men catch up to do.
Yeah, I read a bunch of X-Men books for this. I'm really excited. And one of the things that I think was a little bit interesting was we got a couple of pieces of news that were really fascinating. Um, I really loved hearing that all of these X titles are ending, it appears, with 10. Not because I genuinely love it, but because this is like one of the fastest I've seen anybody since this Congress turn around on a decision that is not going to be changed under any circumstances. Because I could not believe how quickly all of these. It's at least a year. It's at least a year, and with the exception of Exceptional X-Men, things come out 9 times a month.
Yeah. So I assume the 3 team books are not canceling because some of those are even beyond 10 anyway.
Though, you mean the 3 main team books? Because don't forget, there's X Factor,
yeah, which
X-Force,
is
NYX.
those are definitely canceling. Yeah, sorry, I meant the 3 main team books. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's funny. I'm just so tired of dealing with these silly things that I honestly didn't even do the research this time around. But I know that Brevoort said these were all getting long runs, and like he was sick of everything getting short runs, and everything needs room to breathe. And that was just a lie. Like, I know we're gonna get weird X-Men math of like, well, when I said that, what I meant was like, no, I actually never. You're wrong for thinking it. And sure, there's a way to interpret everything, totally, but you know, yeah, this is what you sold us on. And the fact of the matter is, I get it. Like, they probably weren't doing that well. They probably weren't that good. Like, sure, sales are king. That is also why Brevoort got on something to say that the reason it's totally okay that the cover for the next Exceptional X-Men completely spoils the identity of one of the characters, and spoiled it because it was solicited 3 months in advance, as all comics are. So
it was solicited before the character ever appeared.
Right. So, completely spoils who the character is. And, he said it's such a saleable moment. He didn't even say sellable. He said saleable moment that, like, we have to do it. I do not feel as though the Anakin Skywalker style cover of this dude actually, his shadow revealing that he is Mr. Sinister, I simply don't feel that if you are not already charmed by this book, which of all of them, there are ways in which it does charm me. It is not my favorite, but I am charmed by it in very specific ways. I would not say I'm charmed by the other two. I actually might in some ways enjoy them more, but I'm not charmed by them in any way. I'm charmed by Exceptional X-Men. I find...
Well, but okay, let me ask you: Can an X Team book be charming like that? When Bowen Yang got out there and was like, the whole thing with you can't make fun of people anymore, Bowen, because you're too famous. Like, yeah, he was in Wicked, but like when you are writing one of the tier X-Men books, can you be charming? Can you be quaint? Can you be adorable?
Yes, and that is why that's why Exceptional works. That's why Exceptional works as a charming book, because it is, it's getting the treatment as being one of the big 3 team books. It's X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Exceptional X-Men, but X-Men and Uncanny did a crossover on their own without involving Exceptional in any way. They did Raid on Grey Malkin. It's really those 2 teams, and everything conceptually that Exceptional is doing in terms of like a team of broken ex-people, older ex-adults training children is happening in the pages of Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men. So like it kind of is those two books, and then Exceptional is the Jan. But I'm charmed by it. I'm not charmed by the other two. I'm charmed by Exceptional. But I don't feel as though revealing that Sheldon Xenos is sinister. And by the way, boy, did I sit for an embarrassingly long amount of time trying to do anagrams. Yeah, not cute, not good. I'm dumb. Yeah, that reveal is nothing. That reveal is not going to sell more issues, Tom Brevoort. I don't, and so, I'm not. I'm still looking at Marvel going, okay, none of your strategies seem based on a single thing. Like they don't seem based on anything that is science, that is math. It just seems like a bunch of old white guys being like, I've been in this industry a long time, trust me.
And part of where I wonder a little bit about what the trajectory purpose is of some of these inclusions, it's like I'm feeling like NYX is meant to capture a very specific moment. And I think it's meant to capture that moment because so many people had that moment. My big comeback to Marvel moment was toward the end of the Morrison era. And so that lines up with, NYX and the new X-Men Academy X kids and Young Avengers. It's all roughly 20 years old. And so, that super era of X-Men and Marvel in general, you're seeing that play out in the pages of NYX, so I can identify who that's for. Okay, well now that's a little hyper specific, but I'm here for it because I like hyper specific products aimed at me, and that one is. So then I think a little bit about in the other direction, Exceptional X-Men, which I don't think it's a bad book. I don't think there's room for the overlap between that Uncanny and X-Men. Everything is doing 2/3 of the same shit. But I think the difference for me is X-Men specifically feels like a book that is every issue is the moment right before every horrible thing happens. Like the atmosphere in that book is so tense, it's unpleasant. It's like the traitor's turret. But the attitude in Exceptional X-Men is there are no stakes and everybody's eating cheesecake. And I don't feel stakes.
I agree with that. I don't, I mean, like, for a number of, it's also because like, I don't feel stakes in any of this right now because there's so much stuff being thrown at mutants that there's nothing being thrown at mutants. And I just feel like inevitably we need to get back to either a Krakoa or a Genosha or back to the school. The group is all going to be in some way united and affiliated again. And so while they're not, but they also kind of are. So there's 3K. There's some disease that's killing everybody. Everybody's powers are wonky. There's the regeneration related sickness. Mutant racism is at an all-time high, but Dazzler can do shows as a mutant that everybody knows is a mutant where Shark Girl is on stage with her. So like everybody knows everybody there is a mutant.
And a major plot point of the recent Uncanny is that the kids so successfully defeated the Sentinels that they became like heroes.
Yeah, because people don't actually hate mutants that much, but mutants are scattered to the wind. The teams can't get along, but also they kind of do. And so Exceptional especially does this weird thing where like I really appreciate the way that like it has no stakes. You're right. It has no stakes for like the greater X-Men universe, but it has a lot of like personal stakes for kind of actually just Kitty and like maybe the kids, but I don't care about the kids because I don't know the kids because they're not real people and nobody's ever going to use them again. So, but like I very much appreciate that Eve Ewing recognized what Kitty did at Andrew. Thank you for complimenting my Zelda hat. I know that we argued on Blue Sky earlier this week about our favorite Zelda games and you having the wrong ones, but I just want to say I really appreciate that you were able to come here and compliment me. That means a lot.
I also want to say, like, while there have been a lot of unofficial members of the Action Pack over the years, Andrew is putting the A in Action Pack.
Yeah, you get the Action A.
Gets the Action A. Always in the comments with something nice to say about somebody, and that's the dream. So
there's an outer Action Pack. It is a wide, it is a wide web of pack.
Yeah,
and so absolutely.
I really appreciate that Eve Ewing like references back to the fact that Kitty did something that she never wanted to do and killed people. That I don't particularly love the way that she interprets the relationship between Emma and Kitty, especially when because she references stuff from Marauders and from the Fall of X so heavily. It's weird to me that she missed the fact in Marauders that Kitty and Emma are basically best friends. Like they got very, very close, and they kind of talk to each other now a little bit more like it's the end of Astonishing, and the years that happened after that never came about, which is my favorite thing in the world. But they're just two ladies in a gym trying to help teens work out and giving life. I don't know, like there's something very cute about that and very charming, but it's it's sort of like Power Rangers when you grow up and realize like, oh, this is the lowest, but like I loved this when I didn't know what like anything of quality or standard was, but now I'm a little older and like
I know that Power Rangers quality starts with Zeo.
Yeah, like this is a little bit nonsense. And it just feels a little bit like this is really cute. I love that they're talking to these kids, but also it's like three of them and a gym space where like we've had these kids in a school, and we know that's a good setting for a lot of these stories, so that the gym, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me.
And I just want to say, Andrew, earlier this week or last week I was on broadcast and I specifically commented on my arms, and TK was like, okay, I even have to give him the arms, and I got messages from people being like, where are they? And so
terrible day for it because we do vertical today.
I know,
but this is sleeveless season is upon us. You were almost up to 60 degrees down in Jersey.
Yeah.
So when we go widescreen format.
And I got a compliment from a super muscle daddy that I have nice arms today, so I'm feeling them a little bit, feeling cute. And I just want to say, like, part of the thing that I love about this show is like we started with the news, segued into the X-Men catch up, kind of bounced back, talked a little bit about a few things. I love the way that we are able to have like a little bit more fluid connection, and I'm like literally purposely using this as a launching point. I did appreciate the fluid connection that they're trying to build back into these books. In that first month or two of Krakoa, it seemed like every book was going to reference every book. And then 6 months in, a little less so. And then maybe 8 months in, kind of not at all. But with the Sentinels stuff that they've poised so cleverly, I feel a little bit like they're really going for that fluidity where as long as you're okay with it saying this comes before Sentinels 4, you're going to be okay.
It's funny. Yes. And I didn't really even think about that with Sentinels. The thing I thought about it with, which has come up a couple times for McKay, is Phoenix. And there's the heavily quoted line from a few issues ago where Scott's like, I'm trying to stop you guys from killing me because if you do that, my wife will come home from space and will kill you. And then in this issue where, this group of galactic bounty hunters come to get Scott because they're like, your wife is the Phoenix and it's probably good to have a bargaining chip against the Phoenix. I loved. I agree. Like there's a thing to that where I hope it stays in that zone of reference where it's like, yeah, Jean actually is out in space, and you can just assume, like, because she hasn't run into Skrulls or the Kree very, like, most of the people that you see on that Akanti space whale are not like anybody that she has run into. She's primarily dealing with Thanos and the Black Order. So, but you know that, like, if she's out in space, she is going to be affecting all of those people. They are all going to be aware that she's there. So the fact that they kind of have bypassed trying to do raid on Shi'ar Empire. Oh, God damn you. Kevo's comment, a cunty space whale is my drag name. I am lost. I am destroyed.
When Scott was like fire at the Akanti, I was like, Akanti, you stay. Scott, sashay away. I was like, absolutely not having it.
They determined very clearly that one was just completely scoped out.
I don't care.
That's always my bummer.
That Akanti is.
That's always my bummer with the Akanti is I'm like, you never, because sometimes they're like, we freed it and it's fine now, and other times they're like, nah, it has no soul, it's fine to kill it. But I'm like, it's still a cool space whale. I don't know.
I think my big thing is with that famous quote, and then this issue when Scott is like, Quentin, why do you think you're here? It's if Jean goes nuts. I like to think of myself as like a wonderkin, and like I like to think of myself as this guy who, when I was younger, impressed everybody with my bravado and my attitude. And as I've grown into an adult man, I really realize how that impresses no one. And like I see that vertical line that somebody acting like a big man when they are a child comes to realize as a big man they have a lot of child to make up for. There's like a balance. And with Quentin, I feel like elevating Quentin to that maybe misunderstands my definition of Quentin. And
yeah, you and I have the correct definition of Quentin. I want to throw that out there right now. If you don't see Quentin, you're allowed to see Quentin as an incel Nazi. I don't agree with that, but that is what Morrison was going for. And the whole point was that he was going to take the character to Morrison zones that would show you that kind of thinking is irrelevant, and that's what you do when you're an earthbound being. And Quentin was never meant to be an earthbound. He was meant to be one of the Phoenixes. Like, he was always going to be more. But if that's how you see him, that is how he was written at one point, and that's fine. Some of you kind of can't move past that. Every other interpretation except for, anyway, go.
But it's the people that deify, like, it's the people that see him as so godly. Like, yeah. I so love him and Jane in those issues of Aaron's Thor, where she's Thor, he's Phoenix. Neither one is really either thing in the eyes of the universe, but both completely are. But like, you would not send in Jane to break Thor if Thor went evil. You would send in Jane and Bill and Eric, and you'd give Steve something Uru, and everybody would have a great fucking day. And it's sort of the same thing here. And it's actually I think, first of all, She-Devils is the single greatest blank of Marvel book I have ever read.
Yeah.
Some total period. And we'll get to that in a minute. But like, that did everything right in the way where I feel like Uncanny is making everything really, like, I love dramatic tension. And like, everybody who knows me knows that like my movie of last year was kind of definitely Longlegs, which I could not stop talking about. I'm nervous about the monkey for 11 reasons. I love this director, but gosh, the reviews are tough. The actor is too pretty for this adaptation. The better adaptation was the X-Files. I have a lot of feelings about this. But I can't stop thinking about. I have so many feelings about this movie. It keeps me up at night. But I I feel like that is every issue of McKay's X-Men at this point. It is like, it's too racking. It doesn't feel good. It's that thing where the base is too intense in your chest and it hurts. And like, I really Andrew, my other tied for first place is Wicked, but my emotional associations with Wicked, Andrew said his movie of the year was Wicked. My emotional associations with Wicked are a little too intense, so I can't be trusted for my opinion on that. But I really feel like the suspense, the atmosphere, the attitude that McKay is able to build with every issue of his X-Men, it truly borders on Lynchian, but I don't like it in every page of my every issue of X-Men. It hurts my chest.
You know what this made me really want him to I want him to stop writing this book. I'm not in love. But you know what this made me want him to write? The definitive, ongoing, that would change the world of Marvel forever Alpha Flight series.
Oh, no, absolutely. I don't like the setup. I don't like the way it played out, but his understanding of who they are, that like,
well, he's Canadian. He's from Prince Edward Island. Like,
oh, well.
He like
better Prince Edward Island than Prince Albert Island. Yikes.
Yeah,
that's the red party.
That's just a list on Blue Sky that I look at sometimes. A lot of them. I'm always very surprised. You guys are brave. I love his Alpha Flight. I really love his Alpha Flight, and I really appreciated how he pulled it directly from where we ended with Fall of X. I mean, like, I had a lot of fun with those characters. He wrote them really well. They had a great dynamic. They were the action. They were the fun. I don't know. I'm just so bored by this status quo. Like, this weird Sentinel factory that they're in is no fun to me. I don't know what we're doing here.
The part that throws me off the hardest is that I feel like none of the books are being written like they're talking to one another. Sometimes it feels like the dialogue is not between the same characters that are occurring in each other's titles. Like, the Rogue in Uncanny is nuanced, defined by her sensibilities and also her limitations. And every other book just seems to be like, oh, that crazy Rogue is all about Xavier again. And like, I know that sometimes that's the version of the story I get from my mom about my cousin, but like, this is X-Men, and I'm looking for maybe a deeper read. It sometimes does feel like the characters in X-Men are reading a mutant X-Men social media that they're not sharing with us. Oh, I flipped the fucking table. I hate this iteration of Hellions because I didn't come up with it. I hate it so fucking much.
Hellions?
That in the pages of X-Men, Bedlam, the Bedlams, Jesse and King Bedlam, Phantom X, I know I'm forgetting one of them, and Boom Boom are the Hellions working for Scott. And
did I miss this?
It's in like 10. It's in issue 10. They're working for Scott, and they take out all of Lundqvist's private bases. And 10, which had one of the best covers to any book in the last like 10 years. Yeah, why am I forgetting who the fifth one is? But this iteration of Hellions, I only hate it because I didn't fucking come up with it. It's so good. Ugh. I don't love it, but Phantom X, Bedlam, and Boom Boom on a team, that's all I need for an ongoing. Forever.
Oh yeah, why don't I? Wow, I just completely forgot about that. I think it was because I was so mesmerized by the Scott
fighting with Lundqvist, which was just basically it was a disruptive film. That is all it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know, and like that takes us back to, because that's also the issue where the Quentin thing comes up. the idea that Scott is treating ID and Quentin like the idea that Scott is treating a lot of these people like their colleagues is a little weird. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't ring correct. Especially Quentin and ID, where like Scott is, it's not even that they can't be career X-Men or that they can't have graduated. It's that he's still, to me, he's still 20 years older than they are. And I know that we're dealing with X-Men ages, so like that's not quite right, but
there is something that Scott is coming off a little past reveal. Like there is something.
I don't know if anybody is going to get that reference, but I hope you do, children. I want to please you secularly.
That it was Dunstan checks in. It was for us.
He is a little, and I don't know. I think Alan Tudyk should play everything, but I don't know. I think that the biggest problem for this era of X-Men, and it sucks, is that my understanding of character iteration is that there is a focal center. There is a focal prime. I don't care who's writing the character, but you come back to the focal prime. Everything is branch. Everything is iterative. But there's this one form of the character that there are coarse veins that run into the other versions of. And better or worse, because I think in a lot of ways Hickman's iterations of these characters in my heart were for the worse, even though his universe was for the better. I love that everybody here is getting their rock star run. Amazing. But it is 9 people writing every character completely differently and then often sharing them, and so there's no shared vision. There's no point at which this era feels like Cyndi Lauper standing just 3 people away as Michael Jackson gives Bono the meanest look you've ever seen. It's just not there. So instead, what we wind up having is that Divas Live where Aretha just looks so angry at the camera because she said she would not sing Natural Woman, but because Carol was there, they decided to play it anyway, and Celine is doing it the way Celine does it. So Aretha's pissed. I mean, she looks literally the angriest I have ever seen her. And everybody knows that Aretha Franklin and I were in the same anger management group, so that matters. But absurd references aside, I do just wish that like even somebody who wasn't writing but was overseeing character study, like we need a character editor as much as we need a story editor. And I feel like what Tom Brevoort does really excellently is manages multiple titles, but what we need is somebody to expertly come in and manage multiple characters for those books.
You know, it was not on my 2025 X-Men bingo card. Gail Simone writing Jubilee hitting on a cop.
I'm going to say why it worked.
No! I knew you were going to do this to me.
He's the wrong kind of hot. That's just so right.
He is very hot.
It was that kind of hot, that like TV hot cop where you're fine with it.
I at least appreciated that, but I'm still not fine with it. I still think it's weird.
It's the other kind of ACAB. Actor cops are beautiful. It's the other ACAB.
If only he had been an actor. If only he had been mall security. And he was like,
they
don't pay me enough for this. Yeah, Gail Simone, come on, dude. Like, no, Jubilee did not hit on a cop. No, that didn't happen.
You might hit a cop.
Hit a cop, exactly. I don't know what to do with X-Men, Uncanny X-Men. It's fine, I guess. I don't know, just none of these. I feel like once we get to whatever the next thing, this is going to be like IVX, the IVX era, where like once we get to the next thing,
under fire next.
we are never going to talk about this ever again. Like once they're all back at the school, once they're on Genosha, once they're doing whatever the next thing is, we are never going to talk about this again because it's just nothing's happening. It's so many disparate storylines, it's so many disparate characters. It's no universal understanding of anybody. It's no universal understanding of the mission. It's no universal understanding of the plight of minorities who are persecuted, especially not in the climate that we're actually in where minorities are persecuted. It's no clear understanding of how disease works. It's no clear understanding of how space travel works, what young people want, what teens want. It's all over the place.
Crocker knows
Truly.
what guys want.
She's my Venus.
Venus
I don't know. I just
Milo,
I thought we were doing songs from that era.
Because yes, that is what this show has devolved into. We are so desperate to not actually be like, I wish X-Men were better. That we are. Cause
no, also I can definitely say it. I'm fine with that.
The talent is there, but the books,
yeah, it's
be gelling.
Yeah, and I just don't. I don't feel like any of this is going to be stuff that we were like. Even I didn't like the Decimation era at all. I didn't like how that changed the metaphor. But there's still so much stuff from there that we reference. What?
KEVO, reading
God.
you like a book. By songs from that era, TK means 1990s commercial jingles using oldies music.
No, there's the 80s version of I'm Your Venus.
Bananarama.
Yeah, thank you. Because I was gonna say it was the Bangles.
I think he was dinging my song as well.
Well, yeah, but yours.
Oh,
also
and
has
I
a
was
80s
thinking
version.
the Ladies Razor commercial where they used the.
Oh yeah.
So,
But I also think
that was to go with Betty Crocker.
I think that's the 2000s.
I get so overwhelmed by Taylor Swift having an unrelated Cruel Summer that isn't Cruel
It's
Summer.
the most annoying thing in the world. How
It's
dare
just-
you?
It's one of the weird, like, it'd be like somebody else releasing a song called Don't Dream It's Over. The fuck is wrong with you?
I mean, at least Ariana Grande had the decency to just cover Good Night and Go.
And when that woman decides to do, because you have to say woman, you can't call her a girl because she is
No.
so clear to put woman in every one of her song
Yes,
titles.
she's definitely a woman.
Like
A
Breathing Woman,
very bad woman.
popular woman.
Yeah.
But,
Appropriative woman.
appropriative woman, high ponytail woman, which she appropriated from Madonna, obviously the originator of the high pony.
Truly.
But I don't even remember what joke I was going to make about Ariana Grande, but I'm sure.
Speaking of ponies, what's up with this stupid horse that's always on fire?
Oh, in this book, I don't know.
Yeah,
One of the
you can't
things
get-
that, one
Can't
of the,
convince me to care about that horse.
there's so much going on in every one of these books with every one of these fucking characters.
Yeah.
I remember now.
Go.
At least when Ariana Grande had the smart or weird notion to rename every song something similar to an existing song, she has the good sense to put the title in capitals, since we all know that search engines use lowercase and capitals differently. I'm being sarcastic, but every Ariana Grande song title is lowercase for some reason. Good for her.
Yeah. I don't know.
Very Tori Amos lyric book. Overall, I'm going to give the X-Men current main 3 books X-Men a B. I kind of even want to give it a B-, but I kind of walk away satisfied. I feel like I've had maybe 2 or 3 issues where I've been like, not enough happened. Out of 12, that's a pretty good number. I can live with that. Exceptional X-Men, it's a lot of cute moments. It's a lot of like really special slice of life. It reminds me of a lot of really good, but keep the title in print eras of Exiles. Kind of also gets a B, but I want to give it a B-. The only one that I'm really like looking forward to month after month is Gale's Uncanny. That gets an A-. But when it's weak, like Kurt being like, oh, would Rogue ever forgive me for wanting to leave the X-Men? Of course. We've also described this Rogue as so understanding, loving, and kind. Why wouldn't she forgive you? Why wouldn't she support her brother? It can be kind of dopey and B-ish. So, like, I guess that one is technically a B+ that I'm going to give an A-, just like the others are probably B- that I'm giving Bs, but it's X-Men. And I love that we're in an era of X-Men where not a single one of these titles is written, I guess, by an old guard person, written by somebody who's written dozens of X books before. The oldest guard person is a woman. How great is that? One of the other writers is a woman. How great is that? And I love being in support of Canadian goods right now. And so, Jed McKay, I am here to support your X-Men hardcore because it is evidently a Canadian good.
For me, I'm giving the high grade to exceptional with B+. I think I gotta give Uncanny like a C+, and X-Men B-. There are times where they go into the B range, but they fall flat for me a lot. The art is not quite gelling with me a lot of the time. The vibe just feels really off. And again, because those two books are so intertwined, they're kind of dragging each other down a lot of the time, where Exceptional at least is free to kind of do its own thing. It maybe is not doing a ton of stuff.
Very alternate, free to do what it wants to do.
Yes. And so that would make Uncanny Jocelyn Enriquez and X-Men is Amber.
Yeah.
Yep.
I absolutely, completely.
Yep.
That is definitely X stars on 54.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the name of the omnibus. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another group of badass babes.
Oh yeah.
Women of X-Men Women of X-Men, Jesus. Women of Marvel She-Devils. I really could have called it Women of Daredevil. Because like Shanna ran in like 13 issues of Daredevil in the 70s and 80s. Obscure, but still a good reference.
Yep.
Obviously Daredevil is Daredevil. Good for her. She's amazing. Laura being a Wolverine character, Wolverine being the hand situation. I just felt like this whole thing, and Blade having natural ties to Daredevil through.
Well, no, Brielle and Daredevil hang out. Brielle and Matt.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Even furthermore, yes. Okay, so this could have just been called.
Yeah.
Women. Parenthesis. Note: Daredevil loves all of them, but it's about the women, not Daredevil.
Yeah, and Bloodhunt Dracula.
You're right. You're so right.
Yeah, no, I had the same realization where I was like, oh, these are all just Matt's friends and like other
yes. They're not women who love Daredevil. It's women Daredevil love.
Yeah. Well, and one of the women is Daredevil. Like Laura has no connection. It's funny. One of the women is Daredevil. Laura has no connection to Matt, but she's connected to Daredevil because she's connected to Elektra.
Right.
Brielle.
Bologna.
Yep. Brielle has a link to Matt and Shanna has a link to Matt, but they're all friends of Daredevil. It's funny. That's really interesting. And I love that it was called She-Devils. What I really thought about was that we just talked about another Marvel anthology book that is similar to this one insofar as it's discrete stories. It's ostensibly discrete stories that have a plot through line. This one did exactly what the Storm anthology was for me not able to do. And it was that it had three what felt like really distinct stories where each author got to do whatever they wanted, but they included the element of this overarching plot that would tie the book together, but they still really felt discreet enough, where the Storm one felt like one single issue that you asked for both fill-in writers and fill-in artists to do like different pages of. So I was really, really excited and impressed by She-Devils.
Overall, I thought that one of the things that made this feel unique was its high stakes, low impact. That's a really sort of hard thing for a Marvel book to properly navigate, but we are so used to high stakes, high impact. This literally kind of said, yeah, the world might end or whatever, or the Savage Land might get corrupted or whatever. But once the world doesn't end, these women are going to stay these women and do these women's things, and they'll just continue to have known each other. That's it. There is no real impact from this, but it's still a high stakes, fun adventure.
And that's a very, you know, like Buffy has had a couple, rest in peace, Michelle Trachtenberg, has had a couple fantastic episodes where they save the world. The world is about to end. The apocalypse is coming, and it's an episode. It's a Monster of the Week episode. They save the world. It doesn't end. Nobody will ever know. It doesn't affect the overarching plots. Angel continues to live. Spike and we know whatever is happening. Buffy is still going through her stuff. Everything is still happening, but they just saved the world. They just stopped an apocalypse.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you know, in a world of super beings and super adventures, you should have those moments where like, oh yeah, everybody just saved the world, but it's not Judgment Day. We're not doing a crossover. You know, we're not selling. Yeah. Yes.
We never even see the actual end of the universe that Buffy's facing during the Zeppo because we're focused on Xander.
Yep. And this is a really similar thing where they have a very significant adventure that could be have huge problem ramifications for the Marvel universe if that was the story they were telling, but that's not the story they're telling. They're telling a story about women, you know, being successful in their field, being successful superheroes, confronting a problem, approaching, you know, being supportive of each other. And yeah, I don't know. I was really impressed. I loved all three stories. The third story had some really beautiful, challenging art. It was complicated and expressive, and unfortunately, I think it maybe didn't read the best digitally.
I get that. Yeah. Oh my God. All of those 2-page spreads just felt short-changed.
Yeah.
Screen.
And I, you know, that's nobody's fault. It's just one of the things that's changing about the medium. I buy digital a lot just because it means that I can stay at home, get my work done, and read my books, and I don't have to go up to the comic shop, which I can't always find the time to do. But it does mean at times that, you know, an iPad screen is just quite not big enough for a full page horizontal spread for a splash page,
especially when the art is so detailed and so color nuanced and so many slight changes in shade.
Yep, exactly. And so unfortunately this isn't like a ding against the book at all. It's just one of those things that you know, we are dealing with now. And it was a beautiful story. It was really beautifully rendered. And you know, I don't know, I was fascinated by the whole thing. I had an absolute blast with it. I loved seeing these characters work together.
Yeah, that was I really loved the moment where Laura was kind of like, fuck, I'm gonna have to punch Elektra in the face. And I want to say those two names because Wolverine being like, I got to punch Daredevil in the face would be no big deal. But Laura recognizing the respect of what it would mean to punch Elektra in the face is just like such a moment of storytelling that just felt cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. I never know what to do with Kazar and Shanna. I really don't.
Aren't they problematic? Shouldn't we have a problem with this?
I don't know. I don't know what to do with them. What are they, you know, I don't know. Everything in the Marvel universe takes place in Manhattan, basically. So I don't know what we do with two characters who are vaguely prehistoric from the Savage Land.
I feel like this book, for all its flaws, gets an A. I had a really good time with it. It felt like it tried to be inventive. It tried to use its artistic space. There was an excitement to this that I feel like a lot of these fail to muster. This had the energy of a book that didn't think it was going to change everything about the way we read comics, but rather wanted to tell a complete, exciting, and entertaining roughly 2-issue story. This could have been treated as a miniseries. I would have hated it. This could have been treated as a crossover. I would have hated it. But a pretty big issue. Amazing. Great time. Highly recommend. Everybody should check it out.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way.
So, all right. DC?
DC.
I would like to start with Justice League Unlimited, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Justice League Unlimited it's an interesting experience because it feels like it is meant to be the book by which everything else in the DC universe runs through. Like, it is a title that is doing a lot of heavy lifting for some other books, but it is not. It is too much lifting. I haven't seen a book do this much work to shape a universe since New Avengers, and it's too much. It's too heavy because now I'm thinking about all the Atom stuff, and I'm thinking about all of the Super and Bat stuff, and I'm wondering how Star Sapphire went to the background when the Green Lantern stuff has already moved Star Sapphire to the background. So what the fuck is she doing here if she's just going to get moved to the background? Why is the Question cooler here than she is in her own title? Wait a minute. So this Airwave thing has to do with something that comes from a Stargirl book I didn't read called Stargirl: The Lost Children that I need to go check out. What is happening here? I love this book, and I think the book is great, but I feel like for the book to be great, I might have to ding the rest of the DC universe for not keeping up. Or is this book responsible for too much? And so even if the book is great, its existence deforms its own universal reality, and that is responsibility.
That's a really fair question. I don't have good answers. I'm not sure if the thing here that makes the most sense is like 3 or 4 Justice League books. Justice League Dark, which would be, the occult book, Justice League Street. I don't know what you would call them. But I, for one, this is one of my favorite DC books because as a newbie and as somebody that's still getting to know everybody, this is where I get to meet the Avengers. Like, this is where I get to see everybody here. Like, now my new favorite dude is Dr. Occult.
Oh man, I love Dr. Occult. I can give you some great stuff.
And truly, I have no doubt. But he's cool, and I didn't know him before. And it's really fun, like, just meeting a new guy and he's out there with them. It's really fun getting a really quick download on what's going on with Swamp Thing. There's so much about, like, when all the characters show up on the scene, it is just boatloads of fun. I would maybe cut the Atom Project stuff out.
There's not room.
Yeah. But I don't know. I have so much fun with this book.
And I think the reason I am so excited by this book is because when you have art like this title, the art in this book is so extraordinary. This and Detective Comics. And you know what? Women of Marvel, what a great week for art. And Diaz over on X-Men did a great job this week, really, but maybe not the same intensity, just like a different color work. The color work does a lot of the heavy lifting there for the intensity. These read like video games more than comic books sometimes. And Justice League Unlimited is one of the most exciting comic book experiences I've had in a really long time, because, like, one of my favorite things about the best animated shows, when I think about my favorite animated series, I think about the things that are going on that are not going on what I'm watching. Like, I love to think when I'm watching an episode of Korra that doesn't feature Lin Beifong, what is Lin doing? Because she's such a great character, and everything I'm getting fulfills me so much. My brain has room to escape to other places in this world. And, like, Justice League Unlimited does that for me, because what's happening on the page is always so fucking fascinating and so full. My brain processes that in its own time, and I'm like, oh my god, so then what is this person doing right now? And, like, there's a certain level of my brain dealing with distraction-based mental disorders. And like, Mark Waid has this incredible dexterity for blending page and energy into like the vibe that moves you to the next thing. This is so a cutscene. This is so exciting every time. The art does so much of the work for that because if you try and render a PS5 game on a Commodore 64, you're going to get Zeep Zorp. And the same would be true of a Mark Waid script through an artist that doesn't have that kind of power. And every artist that Waid is working with at DC this last 12 months, especially Mora over on Absolute Power, has really raised the bar for storytelling cinematic excellence in comics.
And it's just so cool to just see everybody all of the time. It really, I get to see the Avengers, but it really does. Hickman's Avengers World project, where like everybody was an Avenger, was really fun, but it was at the end of the day almost a little too organized, a little too Hickman-esque.
Yep.
Where this is just like the only promise is that they all have the access to the same clubhouse, and they're there a lot,
and it's vaguely haunted.
Well,
like,
and
not even had superheroes.
Also, just apologies to everybody. I am recovering from a head cold, so if you are watching and see me constantly dipping out of camera, I'm trying to blow my nose, and my horrifying bloodshot eyes are not because I'm stoned for once. It is just that my sinuses are a disaster, and I'm trying not to cough on screen too. So, the fact that they all have the clubhouse, and it's even referenced with what's his name, with Airwave, that like they're not supposed to live there. Like they can sleep there if they need to, but they're supposed to have other places to go. Like this is just where they hang out. This is not supposed to be the facility. This is not supposed to be their whole lives.
What the hell kind of happy childhood did the people in the DC universe fucking have that none of them are secretly trying to run away to an underground sunken museum near the La Brea tar pits?
There you go. So, just that it is, there's a problem, everybody could show up, including like randomly Xanthi from Spirit World by Alyssa Wong. Just a character who I was not expecting to see in this book, but of course. And I imagine this is a place where I could see my precious dreamer.
With a heart of gold.
There you go. And we've got Star Sapphire in the mix quite a lot, which is fun. So I don't know. It's just a really fun book. Dan Mora draws everybody looking fine as hell, which is wonderful. And yeah, I mean, like there's also like this, it's kind of superhero 101 plot. Sorry, it is superhero 101 plot wise in a great way, because we have been dealing with Mr. Jed McKay's Avengers for a hot minute here. I have to say, I gotta throw it out. Really appreciated the format of like very nebulous problem that can't be punched. But superhero
punched by a different person.
Well, right, yeah, like and not a team, not a team fight. Like that the big thing that they've been dealing with for the past couple issues has just been a forest fire, basically. And so Flash is really useful for running around and evacuating people, but he can't hit the fire. And like people literally do try and hit the fire, and the whole point is you can't do that. And so it's been really fun seeing like, yeah, superheroes don't just have to fight to have an action-based plot where they're compelling and interesting and using their powers.
It's one of the reasons that I think Detective Comics works for me so well right now, because I reread the whole arc for this, and if you read the solicits for this arc, you think this arc is about some supervillain named Asema punching her way through the entire DC universe, just punching everybody, like fucking Baby Puncher, like Trisha Helfer in the fucking Battlestar Galactica pilot. Like, I mean, just a monster. And what it actually is a nuanced story about class culture and warfare among the people who have gained what they've gained and the people who have always had. And like this nuanced idea of what it means that like, because there's even levels in which it's hyper escalated. It's not just class and money, it's prioritized power, because we often see GCPD as corrupt, or at least can be corrupt, and then GCPD, like Bullock is like, we can't even get in. And so there are people with power greater than that of the often corrupt GCPD, and they are challenging that notion. So it's not just about money and power is bad. It's about usage and hierarchy of money and power and the quality of how they behave. And I think there's been 8 pages of punching in this whole fucking arc. And so like, I'm so fascinated how with this last arc of Batman that Chip Zdarsky, one of my favorite comic writers of all time and one of my favorite Batman writers in recent memory, did not stick the landing for me. Tom Taylor comes in and is just thinking his way through Batman, and also his Clark is flawless.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. For me, I always have trouble with Batman and like cops. There's a lot of like, we'll call the good cops for this one. So everything's okay. And I did notice that a lot here. I was so moved and charmed by him sending Damian to prison. And it's like the realization that I had there was like, this is why you do just with any comic, or like even like going to a whole line, you really do just have to wait it out. I started reading X-Men in the 90s, and so I got a lot of Scott and Jean being my parents, and I owned the Scott and Jean wedding issue. Like I bought that at my comic shop when it came out, and I lived through the Morrison years. And I loved Morrison so much. And so after that, I was saying to people like, yeah, X-Men's, really good again. Like, you should read it. And those people that took my recommendation and started reading after that did not get Scott and Jean being my parents forever.
You mean that weird man and his dead lady?
But those people got Scott and Emma. But if you read now, and if you read starting from Krakoa onward, you got Scott and Jean. You got Scott and Jean being parents, and you're getting that now. So it's been a year reading comics, and I have not really experienced Damian and Bruce being father and son. I know that they are, and it is technically happening all the time that they are together.
It is biology.
Yeah, exactly. But I haven't really gotten a moment. And in this, you get that moment because Bruce knows that the only way to solve this is to infiltrate the juvenile detention center. He knows that the only way he can do that is to send a child. He knows that the only child who it is appropriate to do that with is his son. He knows that a father should not send his son to a prison to possibly be tortured, which is what he knows is going to happen. He also, sends Damian with a mission to not get in any kind of trouble that would prevent him from collecting intel. And of course, that is the first thing Damian does. And Batman goes to rescue him, and Damian apologizes and says, I know you told me not to do that. And he says, you saw a man who was about to hit a boy and you stopped him. I will never tell you not to do that. And it was just a beautiful thing, and a very beautiful, complicated, heartbreaking thing.
And then the perfect response of him being like, I will never leave you here. You're my son. And him,
yeah.
But Dad, there are other sons.
Yeah, exactly. It was beautiful. And so, like, it's been over a year. I've been reading DC, and I stuck it out, and I got this beautiful Bruce and Damian moment. So, like, if you hear like you should be reading this book because of this thing, you just gotta wait it out. We always come back to it, whatever it is, it always comes back.
It's so important to remember that part of what that line you're tracing is the heart of fandom exists in every moment, even the moments it doesn't appear in. But like, I'm always in love with my husband, even when I'm not with him. Even if I'm not, demonstrating that I love KEVO, I am always in love with him. So like, it's a part of the function of who I am. One of my favorite moments in the most recent Uncanny was the awkward moment where, Jubilee hits on the guy who looks like KEVO. What's the guy we love from Scream and also Yellow Jackets and
Scream and Yellow Jackets?
Maybe not Yellow Jacket. He's in Scream and something else. He's what's her name's love interest in 6.
Oh, Jack Quaid?
No, the love interest.
No, 6. Love interest. Hot,
thick.
Yeah. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son.
No. The what's his name? Who lives in the apartment across the hall? And he like shows up at the end to rescue her.
Oh, from the other two and Abbott Elementary.
Yeah, him.
And She-Hulk. Yes.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cop looks like him.
The cop does not look like him at all, but
in
my
head he does, and so I can forgive
Josh
Segarra.
Thank you. All of this
friends,
but so I get it. I get it because in my head it's that same energy, that same type, that same vibe. But the thing I really loved about that moment before I ruined the episode was that Logan showed up with her, and it's her romantic relationship with Logan, and I romanticize it, not that theirs is romantic. I romanticize it. It's a time in my life that I'm filled with warmth and emotional joy. Like I think they are father and daughter, and seeing them together and just show up together was so sweet and perfect. And that is that Damian Bruce moment for me, where it's like, I come for this. When you tell me that Gail Simone is going to be writing Logan and Jubilee together, I'm coming for that moment, and I'm not getting it. So then you know what? It shows up once every however many issues. And for that, I'm grateful. It feels like every comic book title has 3 too many characters in it right now. So those moments are too far apart. And I think one of the things that works for me is NYX is really only going after one era of X-Men fan. So maybe the cast is even a little small. It's still like 6 people, but like some of them are obviously background characters and everyone's fine with it. And so like, I feel like if you just openly said that about Uncanny, if you used the astonishing or original 5 or 6 person, that's all it is. The new X-Men 5 person, that's all it is. You might be doing a little better than every time somebody new appears in either Uncanny or like it's too many people. I keep forgetting Bobby's in Extraordinary. It's just too much.
Well, yeah, I do agree with that. But is it too much when all the Bat people show up?
You know what? I love that moment though, because it was.
I also really love it. I don't think it's too much, but
it was spoiler. It was Batgirl, but not Cassie Batgirl. It was Signal. Tim is Robin. Damian is Robin. And what made that moment so good for me was that them being there only mattered that it was a show of Bat Fam.
Yeah.
They didn't have to have personalities and get characters defined. I really loved that moment, but like I really do think that every X title has like a few too many characters in it, and it's part of what doesn't make it work for me. And sometimes the problem for DC books is it has too few characters in it.
Yeah.
And I love 4 of the Robins. Why are you giving me 1?
Yeah, I totally hear that. And I am really enjoying how the Bat Fam is showing up. And it's just kind of cool to see everybody support each other. And I don't know, both the DC books this week were iconic fun. They were really, iconic of DC, iconic of the characters that they represent. And the stories are very comic 101, but in like a nothing beats a classic type of way.
Sure.
And all that, just for me, they're both A's, I think. And I'm just having a lot of fun with them.
And that's even part of where I feel like we're at a point where the Marvel and DC universes have so many years of these versions, right? Because like everybody's been kind of playing to Secret Wars and Crisis, and then some post Secret Wars and Crisis version that appeared for our dad's eras and for the Christopher Reeve and that whole era of like bringing the superheroes to the big screen. The idea that these heroes were becoming modern myths really blossomed in the 90s and the late 80s. And so that we've reached a point where those iterations, because like Miles Morales is a take on that version of Spider-Man. He's not a wholly new thing because he's really seated in Bendis's understanding of who Spider-Man is. And so it really won't be until somebody creates a Spider-Man of Miles iteration that really we're starting to see distinct branches. And because, like I've said a few times on the show, DC is so comfortable with its previous branches, you wind up not always feeling that wear, because DC will tell stories in the past and it cuts to the past a little bit more comfortably, whereas Marvel's almost like, we got to be awkward about our past, we got to feel a little uncomfortable about it. And they feel like you can just sort of jump back to being pre-Krakoa like it's nothing. Whereas I saw somebody recently say online that Star Sapphire is just, Star Sapphire again in the way that she's Star Sapphire because we're just doing Jeff Johns again. But it's actually, this is kind of having read, like, not like being like, having read all of it, but like having read literally like every issue of Green Lantern, literally ever. This is like just par for the cycle course. It's not just the Jeff Johns era. DC really loves hitting classic moments, but it feels like Marvel is more interested in forgetting moments. And I feel like that's what you were even saying earlier about this era could just be the next IVX and just be forgotten. And it's like DC really does try to make their mistakes part of the art and Marvel tries to paint over them. And I think that is what we're seeing make Marvel better and worse. And the same for DC.
Yeah, and I mean, I completely agree with that. And I think sometimes with DC, it really is like even baked into the foundation in a way that has annoyed me so much. But if you just keep hammering away at it, I start to find it charming. Like, again, the thing I will always go to is like, it's very silly that the most threatening androids that are going to come kill everybody are called the Amazos. And in a storyline where everybody is about to seriously die in like genocidal ways, they're like, oh no, an Amazo is coming after me.
Oh no, it's a Bat Amazo.
Yeah, and like it just keeps being the Amazos, and that's the stupidest name ever. There was one this week, I wish I'd bookmarked it, but there's some name that came up in Justice League.
Parademons?
No, that's fine. There was some silly thing that got said where I was just like, that is the silliest, stupidest name. And just, they're never going, like, I even think Wonder Woman is really stupid. I think Superman I think Superman and Wonder Woman are really stupid names. But
Batman, who has the proportional strength of a bat.
Well, Batman and Spider-Man. I mean, like when we're in animal names, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
But I mean, like I at the same time, I don't think they're stupid because DC has worn these proudly, and it has resulted in Marvel has always said it's the world outside your window, and it's superheroes in the world that you live in, and DC is not that. Like DC is a world that is where the genocidal robots are called the Amazos, and that's just what's happening. And they're not going to what would happen in Marvel is they would take the concept and they would rename the robots. They would give them a really frightening name, and then there would be we would all laugh at like the 70s issues where they were called the Amazos, but now they're called the Murderbots, which, by the way, I'm reading the Murderbot Diaries right now. It's fantastic. I can't wait for the show. Anyway, DC, nope, they're just going to keep being the Amazos. He's going to keep being Superman. She's going to keep being Wonder Woman, and that we're not going to shy away from that. We're not going to, try and give them different names. We'll play with what we've got. And I think, working with that, I love it. Like now, I mean, a lot of these things I love. I'm charmed in a way by the Amazos, and I like now Jadestone's really cool to me, and there's cool things happening with the Amazos. The flip side of it is the thing that I said last week, which is like Zatanna can't have a new outfit.
No, Power Girl's always got to keep her boob window. What would she do on her boob window?
And so embracing the fact that Wonder Woman is kind of a silly alliterative name and doesn't sound really badass at any point. Actually really smart, great, she's iconic, there's no need to do that. Flip side of things, this lady in a magician's outfit, it's time for an upgrade. That's I see the pros and the cons with DC.
And it's really funny, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and we're like meh, but Nichelle Nichols, Uhura, and we're like Quen. So it's always really fascinating the way we react to these things. I just want to say what a great time I had with all of these books, catching up on these books. I had a long day. I've had a long week. And it was nice just getting to be on camera with you and your cool face. I love our audience. I love our super cool crew like Robbie and Andrew and all of our new fans coming in. Loved Women of Marvel. Hope the X-Books keep a trajectory upward. Justice League Unlimited feels like it's just for me in a way that makes it feel like it should probably be bad, but I'm so happy it's not. And Detective Comics is just sexy.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Justice League feels like it's just for me. So, you and I read DC books so differently. I think it's really doing its job if we both feel that way.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Kevo, what was your favorite book to hear about today, and where can everybody find your handsome face?
I don't know. Good question. I enjoyed hearing about TK's Zelda hat. I thought about it, and I think you confused Josh Segarra with Francois Arnaud from the final season of Unreal, who played Coach Ben's boyfriend on Yellow Jackets and is queer in real life. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Good man.
And you can find me supplying information like that on the socials at KEVO Really. That's KEVO
I love that you even figured out which other human I amalgamated him with. Amazing. TK, fave book, find you. And your favorite thing about pasta.
It's a very close tie between She-Devils and Justice League. I'm going to just give it to Justice League, but I love She-Devils so much. You can find me at TK Accidental. My favorite thing about pasta is how it tastes when it is completely covered in Parmesan cheese.
Excellent choice. Book of the week. I already said all my thoughts on the books. All of them. Every book's an all-star. You guys can check out my music at SoundCloud at NICO Action Music, NICOActionMusic. You can check me out here on YouTube at the same address. Also, you can check out all the feeds of this show at X is for podcast, X is for show, and HTML. That's Husbands Talking More or Less. You guys can do us 3 favors with that. You guys can like, comment, and subscribe. Big fans of those. Great verbs. Do those things. But there's 3 things you guys can do for yourselves that we're also big fans of that would make us real happy. Number 1, please stay safe. Crazy, spooky, crazy world out there. Number 2, be brave. Be brave enough to say crazy, spooky, crazy, and sound like a big old dummy. It's late where I am. I'm tired. But number 3, evolve daily, because who you were yesterday is incredible. Who you are today is phenomenal. But who you are tomorrow, that's extraordinary, uncanny, and adjectiveless. So until then, just keep being the third heat.